are you from and how long have you been living in South Korea?
I'm from France and I've been here for 8 months
What do you do for a living in South Korea?
studying.
I'm here as a tourist. I've been here 7 days.
And how has that experience been for you so far?
It's been a lot of fun, a lot of long nights,
Long nights in the sense of?
partying.
I'm from the USA. I'm from Virginia. Been in South Korea for 2 weeks. Been in Seoul for 1 day. We stayed in Haeundae for 2 weeks. In Busan.
I'm from Germany, like southern Germany.
How has your experience been so far living in South Korea?
I love it. I like the people a lot. They're really cool. They're fun to talk to and go to bars and meet new people. And that's pretty much all we've been doing, just meeting new people in bars.
Awesome.
I mean, generally good. Like people are welcoming. It's like half-half. Some of them don't want to talk to you and they just stare at you, like if they want to punch you. Like they won't actually punch you, but they'll give you a death stare.
Like a bad look.
The old guys and sometimes. But the other half is like really welcoming, even if they don't speak English.
I'm from France and I live in Korea for like 4 months.
I come from Indonesia and I've been living here since 2018.
I'm from Sweden and I've been living here also since 2018.
I'm from England and I've been living in South Korea since last August.
How was the partying experience for you?
It's very fun. Are no different than at home. More open in a way. Yeah, people are more like coming over and saying hi, even though you don't know them.
Where do you usually, like party at?
Itaewon or Hongdae. I heard about Gangnam. I want to go there as well. Yeah.
How would you say, like your experience has been living in Korea so far?
I really like Korea, but I talked with this girl that says that her friends, Korean friends, not foreigner friends, judge her a lot in the way of, oh, you got fat or whatever, and that's kind of sad.
And why do you think they judge each other?
I have no idea, but maybe their parenting, the way their parents are, it's such a competitive society.
How was your experience living in South Korea been so far?
It was really interesting. I really like the mentality of people here and the safety of the country. Everywhere you can go have fun. People are nicer here, I think.
What do you guys do for a living in South Korea?
Currently, I'm still a student and about to graduate, hopefully.
How was that experience for you?
It's been up and down, to be honest. Not only in terms of how difficult school can be, but also the experience living here in Korea. As Southeast Asian female, it can be tricky sometimes.
Tricky, in what sense?
People have an assumptions on Southeast Asian female.
What kind of assumptions are we talking about?
Because the majority of Southeast Asian come here to work as a migrant worker, and most of the jobs are not particularly a high-class job, if that makes sense. So whenever they see me, they assume either I want to marry a Korean man, which actually happened. I got asked by an ajumma whether I'm here to get married or not.
When she asked you about that, how did you feel?
Honestly, because I've been living abroad for a while, so for me, I already understand that I will always be foreigner no matter where I live. So it's a bit shocking that these assumptions still happen and actually us in front of my face. But I mean, I just laugh it off easily.
I've had pretty positive experience, maybe because I'm white and from a Northern European country, honestly. But one thing I noticed though when it comes to studying at university is that even though we study the same program, yeah, and even though it's mixed, both Korean students and foreign students, they tend to separate the foreign and the Korean students. So in our first year, when we had orientation day, they were like, oh, we're gonna meet each other, all the first year students, and have some drinks and have some food. And then they literally separated us by the foreign table and the Korean table. So it's like they deliberately don't want you to mix with the Korean students, which kind of makes it environment where the Korean students hang by themselves and the foreign students are by themselves. So that was a bit disappointing, to be honest. Yeah.
And how did you feel about that?
I mean, I was very upset actually because I could speak Korean even, and still I wanted to communicate with Koreans obviously because it's a Korean school. I'm in Korea. I wanted to practice my Korean skills, but they sort of never gave you the chance to do that. So for me, that was a bit, it was the negative side of student life.
It's been mixed. It's very different from the UK, so it was a lot to get used to, It's so different.
How different?
So many things. It's such a busy, like densely populated country. Like the way of life is so fast. Everything seems so like efficient. England is the complete opposite. Yeah, life is kind of easy and slow unless you live in London, and like transport is not nearly as efficient as it is here. The weather is obviously a lot different. It's cold most of the time in the UK.
I'd say that Korea is very high maintenance in that I always feel like I have to do something every day, and like trying to catch up with everyone else. So I think it's been a very exhausting year, but also really fun. I can't fault it as much as I can praise it. Like it's been really good. So.
If there's anything you dislike about South Korea, what would it be?
That some people don't speak English because it's hard to communicate. And maybe there are places like club that don't accept foreigners.
You just made mention that they don't speak that much of English. It's a homogeneous country that speaks just one language.
To be honest, in France, there are people who don't speak English, so...
I hope they were better at English than they are.
Do you find it hard, like doing things in Korea like without them, like speaking English and all?
I feel more comfortable now, but when I just arrived, it was really chaotic.
I don't like that there's nowhere to throw trash. I'm vegan too, so it's so hard to find food to eat. Like I go to restaurants, ask for vegan food, they're like, no, we don't have that. But that's my main issue. But everything else is really cool.
Besides the trash, like you always carry trash around in your pocket since you can't throw it away. It's super humid. Like I start sweating immediately when I leave the hotel, so I gotta change clothes like 3 times a day. Besides that, it's pretty enjoyable so far.
There's a lot of things in English, but people don't try to speak English because when they see a foreigner, they're just like, oh no, we don't speak, or they try, but in general they refuse. And there's, for example, a place or they don't accept foreigners at all.
What place are you talking about?
For example, in some restaurants or in clubs, they're like, oh no, foreigners, no.
Have you had any experience like with that?
Yeah. But in Seoul, it's less common. But in places like in Daegu or like Ulsan and cities like that, it's more this kind of thing.
How do you feel about like these like institutions? So like let's say restaurants and also like clubs. How do you feel like when they don't allow foreigners like coming into like their institution?
I think it's like they like a lot to help customers, and when they see that they can't do it, they prefer to just don't try. So I think it's more this kind of things. And for example, for clubs, I think it's because they had problems with foreigners, and to solve this problem with foreigners is more complicated, so they prefer to say no.
Do you consider it like as a discrimination or racism or a preference? Like out of these three, like what, like which of them like does it sit with you?
I think it's discrimination, of course, but I don't know if it's because of hate or something like that. I think it really is just like, oh, it's hard to deal with them, so we don't.
The bread is sweet. The bread is the worst bread I've eaten in my entire life.
What bread are we talking about?
Every bread, like, wait, where are you from? Sorry.
Nigeria.
Okay, in Europe, yeah, the bread is not sweet. Like, it's usually like fresh and I don't know, not fucking sweet. Like, it doesn't have sugar in it. Like, I remember like the most traumatic experience I had was when I went to like a cafe and I was getting a garlic bread. And when I say a garlic bread, what kind of bread do you imagine? A salty garlic bread, yeah? I got my garlic bread and it had like syrup and chocolate sauce on it. It was garlic bread with chocolate sauce and whipped cream and sugar on top. And I was like, oh, and then I ate it and it was the most terrible thing ever.
Maybe the culture of like pali-pali, like a really fast culture. I mean, I was born and grew up in Jakarta, which is also a big city, and everything is kind of like a fast pace. But I feel like in Korea, it's a different level of fast pace. Not just in terms of lifestyle, but also even the taxi drivers. Like, as soon as you just sat down and they'd be like, okay, where's the address? I was like, oh, okay, just wait a little bit, you know? And he was like, no, come on, hurry up. I was like, no, I'm not in a hurry. I'm going to pay anyway, so just calm down. So the small things, I think, the pali-pali culture, it can be hard to keep up. Yeah.
The massive creepy crawly bugs, oh, I hate them. the massive spiders in the trees. I can't cope. The first day we came, like we arrived, we were walking along this very street, and a moth flew past my face so big I thought it was a bird. I was terrified. We don't get bugs that big in the UK at all.
I'd say one thing that really stuck out to me here is that there aren't many, or at least that I've seen, like public bathrooms. Like literally today, I was so desperate for the bathroom and I couldn't, like in the UK, you can just go into a place and just go into the bathroom. But what I've noticed here is that, especially in cafes, they like you to order a drink before you can use any of the facilities, which is a little bit inconvenient. So it's one thing that is inconvenient for me, is that if you need the toilet and you're on the street, you really have to search. Whereas in the UK, it just seems to be one. Even like a public toilet, I don't see very many, but there could be, but just in my experience, I haven't seen very many.